Hello and welcome to our webinar, Make Multilingual Web Content Management a Competitive Advantage. My name is Lisbeth Frost and I will be hosting the presentation with Jakob Zetterström from Sitecore. And we are thrilled to have Maria Orebrandt from Astratech as our guest presenter. I'll introduce both of them in just a moment. A couple of housekeeping items before we dive in. We'll be tweeting throughout the webinar under the hashtag LIOX and welcome you to do the same. To ensure an optimal experience, we recommend you disable pop-up blockers. And if you experience any technical difficulties, there is a help button on the console. If you're interested in getting the slides, please email us and we'll send those to you. We also look forward to getting your questions during the webinar, so please submit those as we go. We'll leave a few minutes to address those at the end. The webinar is being recorded and we'll make the recording available within 48 hours. I'm delighted to introduce Maria Orebrandt. She is manager of the Global Web Group of Astratech. My co-host today is Jakob Zetterström from Sitecore. He is president of Sitecore Sweden. And as mentioned, I'm Lisbeth Frost, Lionbridge Sales Director Northern Europe, and I'll be your moderator today. Many of you already know Lionbridge, but for those who don't, very quickly, we are the leader in the 14 billion translation and localization services industry. We like to think of ourselves as partner with our customers, enabling them to accelerate their global growth. We provide a variety of services, including content creation, translation and localization, and testing and global search, which we offer in combination with our SaaS-based language technology platform. Before we turn it over to Maria, maybe you can mention some words about Sitecore and the importance of having a flexible CMS. Jakob, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lisbeth. And before we begin, for those of you who are less familiar with Sitecore, here are some key facts that may be of use for you. We are an 11-year-old company founded out of Copenhagen and Denmark, and today we have more than 450 employees across 16 countries, including China and Asia. We have 750 partners, over 3,000 customers, and over 5,000 certified developers assisting our customers to building compelling and great web experiences. In today's business environment, when the web becomes an increasingly important channel for communication and a carrier of our brand, it is also important that we build a communication that nurtures and reinforces what we want to be. If we work in the industry where, with regulations, there are additional demands on the platform, it becomes important to have a toolbox that allows you to set and customize the way your organization works. What happens if your web platform does not support your business fully? What are the consequences? Slowly entry to the market, high cost, are you even a serious supplier? Your brand may erode, legal issues. All of those are examples of things that you need to consider when choosing a CMS platform to assist you in your global endeavors. And what are the alternatives? And something that we have seen work well is you need to be able to create local opportunities so you have local marketing well engaged, but keep the transparency so central marketing know what's going on. Provide control over content, but not always over structure. Build up the language in the designing web. Have a simple process of content creation in central versus local. Translate correctly, and not only grammatically, but also with the right tone. Lisbeth, now I'm curious on what Lionbridge has to say about this.
Well, thank you, Jakob. Well, as a language service provider, we hear of similar challenges with nearly all of our customers. I would say the big topic of today is content. Marketing must meet the rising expectation of global customers, and but what are their expectations and how do they express their needs? It's about listening to the end customers and to design the content that will fit these needs. The users requires finding relevant and correct information and for most of the users, this means information in their local language. This picture illustrates the complexity companies without a proper setup faces today. We call it the content spaghetti. Content is produced and stored in multiple ways, and when adding the language factor, it can easily become a nightmare. So I see quality and efficiency as the two important success factors. Quality because of the importance that language plays in transmitting the value of the brand, and efficiency because right now we live in the midst of this revolution. The amount of content is exploding, and for most companies it's not about minimizing the cost for translation or other language-related matters, but instead maybe the ability to manage the steady growing volumes and the speed of change. So efficiency means time to market, relevancy, and in the end, market shares or revenue. So it is about finding the right overall solution for web content management with a fully integrated translation solution. So now I'll turn it over to Maria Orebrandt for her presentation. Please go ahead, Maria.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Maria. I work as a manager for the Global Web Group at Astratech in Sweden and Gothenburg. I will talk about how we have integrated the Lionbridge module into our Sitecore project. But let me first start with a short introduction to Astratech. Our head office is in Mölndal, and it's near to Gothenburg in Sweden. We have 16 subsidiaries and around the world, and we also have an export department that works with distributors. Astratech has two business areas, one for dental, where we are selling dental implants, and one healthcare part, where we are which includes both urology and surgery. The largest product in that area is low-fric hydrophil catheter that are used for intermittent catheterization. We are about 2,200 employees around the world, and we have been on the market for nearly more than 16 years. The company was founded in Gothenburg in 1948. For a long time we belonged to the AstraZeneca group, but this fall 2011 we were sold to Dentsply, an American company in the dental business. The Global Web Group that I'm responsible for are working with both areas. The Global Web Group, it's a central function, and we are working both with centrally content and with the subsidiaries. Since the local editors and approvers mostly work with other things as well, it's hard for us to decide how much time they should spend at the web work. So we were eager to find a system that could help us to control their work. We found out that we needed to look on a new CMS system. We have around 120 sites in 16 countries, and we are handling more than around 11 languages. The system that we had before was an own developed system, and since it was own developed, we had to do everything ourselves. We wasn't able to buy plugins or get ideas from others, because we had to do everything ourselves, and it was very time consuming. And we were also dependent on one developer. We also needed a better control of the content. Since the subsidiaries not always prioritize the web work, we could find old material on the sites, and it was also possible for them to actually remove the connection to the international site, which means that we couldn't find old information that they had on their sites. To have a more efficient work with our website, we took a decision in 2010 to start a project for buying a new system. We started with a pre-study to find out which system that should suit us best. We had workshops, and we also did some interviews, both internally and externally with users and customers. We also decided the purpose for each site. Since we have a lot of sites, it was important to find out who the site were directed to. And as you can imagine, we had a long list of different requirements. When the pre-study was finished, we had a suggestion of 2 different CMS systems that should meet our demands. If we are looking specific on the content requirements, we had a long list of requirements to fit our needs, and we had a very clear picture of how we wanted it to work. Since we have so many sites, it's important to handle the content in an efficient way. We wanted the content to be easy to handle, both centrally and locally. Centrally produced content should not be possible for the local editors to change, and not possible to remove the connection to the international site. For small countries as Switzerland and, example, Austria, it's very time-consuming to translate the content. So that's why we wanted to reuse the translations from Germany and from France. And since the web work not always is prioritized on the subsidiaries, we needed to secure that the content is shown on all sites, and it is the right content. And it's also important, according to the FDA regulations, that all content has a version control. And of the 2 systems that were presented for us, we chose Sitecore. It met our demands, and it was also important for us to know that our new system was a visionary system that we could continue to work with for many years. It was also important that the system could handle a lot of sites in many different languages. And since we had been working with Lionbridge before, for all our translations for brochures and web material, it was a very good and crucial benefit for us when we heard about the module in Sitecore, the Lionbridge module in Sitecore. Sitecore is also very easy to integrate with other systems that we have done, and it was also important for us. And it has also a workflow that we need for the FDA regulations. If we take a look on the content, we have 2 different parts of content on our site. We have the central content that are centrally produced by product groups and product information owner here in Mölndal in Gothenburg. And we have local content that are more country-specific information, such as courses and contact information and so on. The central content is mostly mandatory, which means that if a country is selling a product, they actually need to have that information on their site. And it was very important for us to follow control the content at all sites, so that we can ensure that the right content is shown. For example, it's very important that we have the right claims and the right product information. All centrally produced content is approved according to our regulations. And when the content has been approved, we send it to Lionbridge for translation. I will talk more about the translation workflow on the next image. But the most important thing is to ensure that the quality of the translations. Since all central content has been approved according to our regulations, it's important that the subsidiaries don't change the meaning in the text. The translation procedure is time effective for the subsidiaries and give them time to work with local activities instead of the translate of all content that we produce for them. It takes a lot of time for them to translate it themselves, and they don't actually have the time to do that. If we are looking on the translation workflow, we're starting to add the content into Sitecore in the CMS system. And after that, it will be approved by the content owner. And if the content is decided to be mandatory, we create a translation project in Sitecore. And we decide which languages we shall translate it into. We can easily pick that from a list where we have added all languages that we are working with. After that, we add the different items or the different text that we want to translate. It can be many different items in one project, so we can actually add 10 to 20 items to one project. And we just click on a button to send it to Lionbridge. And when they have started to translate it, and they will send it to the contact person on the subsidiary. The contact person will review the content and do some necessary changes maybe, and then send it back to Lionbridge again. The translation is then checked by Lionbridge to ensure that the subsidiary didn't change the meaning of the text. And that is very good for us, because then we know that it has been correctly reviewed and they didn't change any important things in the text. And if they have done any changes, Lionbridge will send us a notification about that so that we can take a decision if it's okay or if we want to go back to the subsidiary. After that, the content is added into Sitecore, and we get a notification by mail telling us that the content has been added. And after that, we can easily check the system and control that the images are in the right place. And after that, we only need to approve the content and publish it. So it actually saves us a lot of time, the way that we don't have to administrate the translations, and we don't need to check that we have received translation for all content. We can concentrate to work with other things. The advantages with the Lionbridge module is that is the content translations control that Lionbridge do. It's very important for us. We know that the right contents are on all sites. We know that the content is up to date, and we can concentrate to create new items and new information on the sites. It's a very time-saving procedure. It's less administration for the Global Web Group and for the subsidiaries. And we don't need to administrate the whole translation procedure. And we no longer need to cut and paste the content that we did before. It also ensures the quality. We know that the content is on the right place at the right site. It's not always easy to understand what's written in some languages. It's hard to know if we are cut and paste it on the right place. But now we know that it's correctly done. So as a short summary, it has saved us a lot of time. So far we have managed the content of 30 sites together in this module, and we think it works very good. And new content is published in a more efficient flow. And the most important of everything, we have full control of the content. Thank you.
Maria, thank you very much for sharing your and Astratech's experience in this matter. Certainly a lot of valuable information for other listeners to learn and take inspiration from. I think that my takeaways from listening to your presentation and some advice from Sitecore on this matter is to really, as you have done, put high demands on your platform when you are in the selection process or evaluating how your current platform is meeting your business needs. It is really important that to make sure that your web content management system is capable of managing central content in all language versions, because you only want one version of the content. Allow central and local marketing to cooperate smooth and in line with your culture. enforce and support your brand strategy, easily create and monitor workflows with approval processes, be able to publish content to several languages over multiple channels simultaneously, and make sure that you can manage language professionally. Lisbeth.
Thank you very much, Maria, as well. I think to summarize, it's to choose a solution that can turn your global content management operation into a competitive advantage by shortening time, it seems. So this concludes our presentation, and we have a few moments here for Q&A. But while we are waiting for all of the questions to come in, a note that our next webinar, In-Country Testing Through a Qualified Crowd, Ensure Local User Experience in Global Markets, including a case study by Nokia, will be broadcasted soon. So please look for our invite in your email box. We hope you can join us again. Also, please feel free to visit our Knowledge Center for some additional white papers and other on-demand webinars that may be of interest. Here again are our email addresses if you'd like to contact any of us. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, where you find other great resources and connect with the Lionbridge community. We also encourage you to visit the Lionbridge Team Translation blog. You can access it through our homepage at lionbridge.com. It has a variety of industry information, tips, tricks, as well as some color commentary by a variety of Lionbridge personalities. So now let's start the Q&A. The first couple of questions are for you, Maria. This is the first one. I'm torn between centralizing my marketing efforts and letting the local teams design their own marketing campaigns because they have a better sense of their targets. What advice can you offer?
It's hard to say, but we have been working both with centrally content and with local content, because we also know that the local material is very important for the local sites and they actually have the knowledge. But as we work, we are working with the plain facts or the marketing more in a strategic way, and the locals are allowed to actually add the local courses and local events that they are working with. So I think it's good if you can do a combination.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the second question is for you here. What are the main differences, would you say, before and after the new process or setup that you have chosen?
I think the main thing is that has saved us a lot of time. It's more efficient work we can do. We can spend our time on more important things to actually add new content, and the thing that we know that the content that is up on all sites is the up to date, and it's the right information. And we had a problem before that it was easily to change the facts on the site. They could remove the connection to the international site, which meant that we could have some wrong information, and that's not good. So this thing is much better.
Okay. Here's another question. What types of quality controls do you perform before going live?
We have a regulation system that control our content. That means that if we have totally new content on the site, it has to be approved by 7 persons. It's a huge regulation system for this kind of products. So we have a very big control of all the content. And we also have, if one person is adding a content, he or she cannot also approve it. We need to have 4 eyes control of the work. So it's a good role that we have, I think.
Thank you. Here's another one. Does translation account for SEO, the search engine optimization? How are internet searches finding your information?
We have been working with some key words that we have sent to Lionbridge for translation, and they have all been checked by the local subsidiaries, and we have saved them as a memory in the Lionbridge module, so that we actually use the same words where we can use it, and I think that is good for the search engine optimizations.
Okay, thanks a lot, Maria. That's all the time we have for today's webcast, but we will be sure to respond via email to all of the questions we have received here today. Thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.